What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. There's a few things that we got to talk about before this Sunday night game between the Cowboys and the Steelers kicks off. The 49ers had a massive choke job against the Cardinals today. The Browns, despite how bad Deshaun Watson continues to play, they still refuse to take out the trash, and it's stinking up the whole entire team. The Raiders, with their current quarterback situation right now, they might as well just wave the white flag on the season and tank for Shedeur Sanders. And the Bengals, they lost a hard-fought game to the Baltimore Ravens. They now are 1-4 on the year. Their playoff hopes are really dim right now, but I'm really confident that they're going to turn this season around. Before we dive into it all, real quick, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop new content and when we go live. You can listen to this episode on all podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram at JT Sports _ and on X at JT Sports __. Let's dive into it. The 49ers had a really embarrassing collapse today against the Arizona Cardinals. They lose 24-23, and it's funny because the 49ers were dominating Arizona for the entirety of the first half. It was 23-10 at halftime. The offense was doing their thing. The defense was dominating. Nick Bosa had a crazy interception. And then we get into the second half, and they get outscored 14-0 by Arizona. And in the fourth quarter, it was just some really bad football being played by San Fran, man. You had a costly fumble inside of Arizona's 10 by Jordan Mason. Brock Purdy had two bad interceptions. One resulted in a field goal. It helped Arizona somewhat start the rally. It made it a 23-13 game. And then his second interception sealed the win for the Cards on the 49ers' final offensive possession of the game. And Arizona, their offense has been really inefficient in the second half of games. I don't know what the reason is, but they just weirdly just disappear in the second half. But in this game, though, Kyler Murray was playing some really good football. He engineered a really good touchdown drive after the 49ers got stopped on 4th and long. And defensively, I don't know what more you can ask for out of your defense if you're the 49ers, because how are you helping your defense succeed when you're putting them in bad spots after you go for it on 4th and long? And look, I get that Jake Moody, your starting kicker, was out for this game and you had nobody who you could trust to kick any field goals, but you might as well just punt the football in that situation. What's the point going for it on 4th and long, knowing that you most likely don't have any plays to get that yardage to result in the first down? You might as well just play the field position game, force Arizona to have to drive the length of the football field versus giving them a short field to work with the score. You know, some of the decision-making in games out of Kyle Shanahan this year has been really head-scratching. You know, the clock management hasn't been great. The adjustments haven't really been quite right. And it's really strange that the 49ers are 2-3 right now, tied with the Arizona Cardinals in the division. And yet Seattle still is in first place in the NFC West despite losing to the New York Giants. And I think that this game says a lot about the 49ers moving forward. I don't view this team as a Super Bowl contender this year. You know, I feel like their last couple of years was their best shot to win it all, and they were unable to capitalize off it. And now this is a season where, of course, they're going to make it to the playoffs. They may win a playoff game or two, but they're not going to sniff the Super Bowl this year because this team doesn't look that well coached to me. And Kyle Shanahan, he's just kind of losing it. The choke, a 13-point lead to a Cardinals offense that has been struggling for the majority of the second half this season, is really, really disappointing. And you had a lot of opportunities to blow this team the hell out. You can't have your starting running back fumbling inside the 10. And it just seems like without Chris McCaffrey out there, Kyle Shanahan just looks completely lost with how to look like a good offensive-minded coach. It's like you're not playing good situational football when you're going for it on 4th and forever. At that point, you know you don't have a reliable kicker. Just punt the football, play field position, try to put Arizona's offense in a situation where you got to drive 90, 80-something yards to score a touchdown. You know, you just make things way too easy for them when you're going for it on 4th and infinity pretty much, and you set them up with really good field position. You know, the 49ers choking to Arizona was really surprising to me. This was an upset that I was not expecting to see, and I'm wondering if this is going to be the catalyst for what could be a disappointing season for San Fran when you think of the Super Bowl or bust expectations that they had coming into this season. Another Sunday, another awful performance out of Deshaun Watson. You might as well call him Diddy Deshaun. He's the NFL's Diddy at this point with all those lawsuits he got going on. But yeah, the Browns lost again 34-13 to Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, and it was the same old, bad quarterback play. Deshaun Watson taking unnecessary sacks, not getting the ball out fast. And what's crazy to me is how people continue to make excuses, making it seem like the situation around Deshaun Watson is not good enough for him to have success when you got two really good receivers and Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy has been pretty good this year. The offensive line has been bad, but Deshaun Watson hasn't made it any better with all of the unnecessary hits that he continues to take, man. He had guys wide open several times during this game against Washington. He was staring down and just run right into a sack. You know, it's good to see that he has his athleticism back, but he's not using it in a correct fashion. You know, Deshaun Watson, with how bad he's playing, you got to go ahead and bench this dude. But with all of the money that Cleveland has tied up to Deshaun Watson, we know that they're not going to make the change to Jameis Winston, even though starting Jameis Winston over Deshaun Watson would give the Browns some juice and it could help them turn around their season, because this is not a bad football team. If you were to rank all of the 1-4 teams right now, or all the teams that have losing records, the Browns from a talent standpoint will probably be the better of the bunch. They got a good defense. They got talent on offense. You just got really garbage quarterback play. You got outplayed by Jaden Daniels today. That's unacceptable when you're getting $250 million fully guaranteed to you. The Browns just need to go ahead and cut their losses. You know, I had an OG tell me a few years ago that one of the biggest things that you got to learn in life is you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them. And for the Cleveland Browns, you got to fold on Deshaun Watson. You got to take out the trash. You can't allow this dude to continue to stink up the joint every single week, hold back your team, and yet you still commit to this dude. It sends a bad message in the locker room, because now the players know that Deshaun Watson isn't good, and you got him snapping on the offensive line when he's the main reason for why he's getting sacked. He's running into guys straight up. He just has no pocket presence. If Cleveland is really serious about trying to win this year, they would start Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, we know that he's not the best quarterback in the world, but we know that if you give him some good receivers, a good play caller in Kevin Stefanski, he can cook. This dude's last year as a starter in New Orleans, he went 5-1 under Sean Payton. And for all of the interceptions that Jameis Winston may throw, he'll also throw a good amount of touchdowns. Jameis Winston right now is a better quarterback than what Deshaun Watson is. This dude is cooked. Ever since those sexual assault lawsuits came out against him, he hasn't been the same. The Browns just need to admit that we got scammed. We invested in a terrible person at quarterback who also happens to suck on the field. You got to get rid of him. You got to. This dude is toxic when it comes to the on-the-field product, and he's toxic in the locker room. You can't have a dude that sucks snapping on his offensive line when he's running in the sacks. If I was one of those offensive linemen, I would have been cussed out Deshaun Watson. Bro, you're the Diddy of the NFL. Don't try to talk to me, man. Seriously. You need to be talking to yourself and God and get you a Bible as well in the process. Like, Deshaun Watson, for all of the off the field drama that he has going on, he's not worth the headache of keeping. You might as well do what the Denver Broncos did last year with Russell Wilson. Just go ahead, take that massive dead cap hit to get rid of this dude and rid yourself of the toxicity and the bad quarterback play. It's one thing to suck, but it's another thing to suck on the field and suck off the field as a person. You know, like, I'm tired of watching the Cleveland Browns, and they keep trotting out Deshaun Watson. Houston, Deshaun is gone. It's never coming back. The Cleveland Browns have a new version of Deshaun Watson that, to be honest with you, just sucks. And right now, I would take Daniel Jones over Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, you can make a legitimate argument that he is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Some people may say Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good these last 2 weeks. Deshaun Watson hasn't had a good game yet this year. You know, like, this dude is toast. And if the Cleveland Browns continue to allow this dude to suck every single week and not do anything about it, it shows you just how stupid and how dysfunctional this organization is, that you're allowing a financial commitment to hinder the performance of your team. Kevin Stefanski, I don't believe it's the problem. I believe they made a bad personnel decision getting rid of Baker Mayfield and replacing him with Deshaun Watson. I salute the move to upgrade at quarterback, but you upgraded with the wrong quarterback in a sense. And it's not even an upgrade. You downgraded. Deshaun Watson hasn't been better than Baker Mayfield. You were better off sticking it out with him. So for Cleveland, it's just really disappointing for the Browns fans out there that they gotta continue to watch this garbage every single week. This dude is missing wide open receivers. He's throwing the ball in the dirt when guys get open. It's just a complete disaster. Nobody wants to see this dude play, and nobody really wants to look at this dude. Honestly, let's be honest, like, if Deshaun Watson was able to get cut right now when the Browns only have to eat a $5 million dead cap hit, they probably would have been done it, because why would you want to have a sexual predator, a weirdo in your locker room? You know, this dude just is not worth the headache for all the accusations that he has going on about him off the field. Like, this dude stinks, and the Browns got a pretty good squad. It's just that your quarterback sucks. Deshaun Watson was supposed to be the missing piece to Cleveland being able to get into the Super Bowl conversation. And now you still have that same problem. You still are a quarterback away from being able to put yourself in that Super Bowl window. And until you bench Deshaun Watson, you're going to continue to suck, and you're going to lose a lot more games this year. You know, like, the only way you're going to win if your defense just completely carries you. They force a lot of turnovers, turn those into points, give the offense a short field, help them out in some way. But the Browns right now, they stink, and they got to make a change, man. You can't continue to start Deshaun Watson. The Raiders got embarrassed by the Denver Broncos, and they benched Gardner Minshew somewhere along the third quarter in this game. They threw out Aidan O Connell, and the quarterback play was still a disaster. At this point, you're 2-3. You most likely aren't going to the playoffs because you don't have a good group of wide receivers. Devontae Adams is about to get traded. You don't really have a consistent run game. Your quarterback play is one of the worst in the NFL. You might as well go ahead, if you're Antonio Pierce and the rest of the Raiders organization, wave the right flag on the season and start putting yourself in position to land Shedeur Sanders. The Raiders, it makes a lot of sense with how bad their quarterback play is right now and how bad of a situation they are to just go ahead and tank for your franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. If you can get Shedeur Sanders next year, you improve the wide receiver room, add a little bit more up front, this is a lock to be a playoff team. You lost to Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. This is the same team that only completed a few passes and had 60 passing yards against the New York Jets last week. They had -7 yards at halftime in that game. This is embarrassing. And it's no surprise that the Raiders' offense is as bad as what it is, because you got a defensive-minded coach that doesn't really know anything about offense, and he hired the worst offensive coordinator you possibly could for the quarterback situation that you have. It's one thing to have below average quarterback play, but it's another thing to have one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league and Luke Getsy calling plays for him. This was the dude who most people blamed for Justin Fields' shortcomings in Chicago last season. What in Antonio Pierce's right mind thought that he would be able to call plays and help elevate two below average quarterbacks? Like having Aidan O'Connell and Gardner Minshew at QB is the equivalent to bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. You're bound to get shot and drop dead. I mean, like, with how difficult the Raiders' schedule is, you're going to have a tough time even getting the 5-6 wins this year with Minshew and AOC at the helm. And it's crazy because there were Raiders fans coming at me all one-sided in the offseason saying how I was hating on their team, I was hating on OC. There were some fools on this platform that said that AOC could be the next coming of Tom Brady. Like, are you kidding me right now? Both of these dudes blows. Gardner Minshew is a serviceable backup. He's a bridge quarterback in the right situation, but this isn't the kind of situation that's suitable for a guy like Minshew that has success. No Devontae Adams out there. The run game has been fairly inconsistent all year long. The Raiders are not going anywhere this season. Antonio Pierce knows it. He's one of the most honest coaches in the NFL, and I respect that about AP. If you ask him a question, he's not going to give you the typical coach's answer. He's going to be honest about it. And if you ask him about his quarterback situation, he'll straight up tell you that it's not good. Both dudes need to play better. So if you understand what the problem is, why not do something about it? And the best way to go about this situation is just tanking for Shedeur Sanders. If you are the Raiders right now, if you start tanking for Shedeur Sanders, you got a really good chance of being able to get the first overall pick in next year's draft to get him. Shedeur Sanders is everything that the Raiders need at quarterback. They need to do with some swagger. They need to do who's going to automatically get the respect of his teammates. I mean, the Raiders probably respect AOC and Gardner Minshew, but they're nobody who anybody's going to rally behind. They're not guys who you're going to get fired up to play with. You feel me? Like, these are marginal quarterbacks at best. Shedeur Sanders has a different level of aura. He has a different kind of moxie that could bring some juice into this Raiders franchise, which is what they need. He also is a better quarterback than what Gardner Minshew and AOC are right now. He's more accurate. He makes better decisions than those dudes. He's really calm, cool, and collected. He's really composed under pressure. Shedeur Sanders is the right quarterback to lead the Raiders to glory, somewhere that they haven't been since I first came out the womb back in 2002. This franchise has been the worst organization in the NFL for my 22 years being alive on this planet. If the Raiders want to become a serious franchise again, like they were when John Madden was the head coach decades ago, it feels like a century since, they need to tank for Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is what the Raiders are missing when it comes to them being a playoff team. You already got a good defense. You got a few good pieces on offense. Now, just get Shedeur Sanders in there, and with how good he is, he can immediately propel you into that playoff conversation. But you're not going anywhere with Gardner Minshew and AOC. This is pretty much a wasted season for Las Vegas. Just go ahead and get a head start on tanking now, so you don't have to worry about any other team trying to tank for him later down the road, because you already got it locked up. The Cincinnati Bengals had a hard-fought game against the Baltimore Ravens, and they still lost. So they now are 1-4, heading into week 6, and most Bengals fans and mostly everybody in the media is saying that Cincinnati season is over, but I don't believe that. I expect Cincinnati over the next month to turn their season around, because look at who they play in their next 4 games. You got the Giants, Browns, Eagles, and Raiders. 3 out of 4 of those teams have trash quarterback play and bad offenses. Even with Cincinnati having bad defensive play, there's no way that the Giants, the Browns, and the Raiders are going to be able to hang with your offense. The Bengals can easily score 28 points per game. It definitely is possible. It'll be hard to do, but I can see them scoring 28 or 30 on the Browns, Giants, and the Raiders, because with how ineffective those teams' offenses have been, eventually their defense is going to be on the field for so many plays that they get tired and the Bengals start to destroy them. Joe Burrow is playing some of the best football of his career. The dude threw for 5 touchdowns today against the Baltimore Ravens. Jamar Chase, he's trying to get paid. He's trying to get $40 million a year next year in the offseason. You got T. Higgins, who's playing for a massive contract when he hits the free agency market in the offseason. And the offensive line has been pretty good along with the run game. So it's going to be hard to keep Cincinnati from at least scoring 24 points. You mean to tell me that this defense is going to get shredded by Daniel Jones, Diddy Deshaun, Jalen Hurts, who's been a shell of himself, and Gardner Minshew or Aidan O Connell? Come on, Bengals fans. Like, don't give up on the season yet. You've been here before in the past. You can easily turn this thing around. You may not go 4-0 during this next stretch, but you easily can go 3-1. If you go into November 3-1 after these next 4, you'll be 4-5, still right smack dab in the playoff race. And right now, you don't really want to be playing your best football at the moment. You rather play your best football later on than play your best football early and then phase out once you get into late November. The real NFL season begins after Thanksgiving, which is why if you go 3-1 in the next month, you're 4-5 going into November, your season is far from over. If anything, your season has just begun, because if you're 4-5 before Thanksgiving, once Thanksgiving comes around, you should be playing your best football. Lou Anarumo is a really well-respected defensive coordinator, and you've dealt with a lot of injuries. You should be more healthier by that time than what you are right now. But these next 4 games are really winnable. And just because you lost to the Patriots in week 1 doesn't mean that it's going to be difficult for you to win these other 4 games that you have coming up. You beat the Carolina Panthers, so it's not like your defense is incapable of being able to help you win a game at all. With the way some of you Bengals fans are talking right now, y'all make it seem like y'all about to go 1-15. Like, come on, man. Have a little bit more faith in Joe Burrow. Like, come on, man. Even if you don't believe Zach Taylor is a great coach, he's not a bad coach neither. Did y'all forget this dude was winning games last year with Jake Browning when Joe Burrow injured his elbow against the Ravens in that Thursday night game? Everybody thought the Bengals season was already over. Jake Browning comes in, wins you a few games, you finish 8-9. You exceeded expectations in some capacity. So Zach Taylor just isn't some doofus moofus as a head coach. You know, the problem is the defense. You can win with having a great offense and a bad defense as long as you can outscore everybody. Joe Burrow's been giving you top 3 quarterback play this year. If anything, he's been better than Patrick Mahomes. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes when y'all played Kansas City, man. The only reason y'all really lost that game was because you couldn't execute when it mattered the most late in the 4th quarter. But it's like Joe Burrow's balling out right now. He's playing MVP level football. The only thing you need is for the defense to just get 2, 3, maybe 4 stops a game, and that's all it'll take for you to win. I mean, you're playing the Giants, the Browns, and the Raiders, bro. They got no quarterback play, no offense at all. Y'all can win those games. Y'all might not beat Philadelphia, even though you got a good chance to do so with the dysfunction that they got going on with Nick Sirianni and the players kind of turning on him. I mean, the season is far from over for the Cincinnati Bengals with how potent their offense is. When you can outscore everybody, who needs a defense where you're going against some of the weaker offenses in the NFL? Even if your defense gets carved up by these units, they're not going to be able to go point for point with you. Come on now. Have a little bit more faith. The season is far from over for the Cincinnati Bengals.